What did you think about, Ethan Strauss came out with his blog saying the whole thing was a flop. And, I thought that, like you, from the final game of group play, the final night of group play, straight through the knockout round with Halliburton showcase himself and LeBron leading the Lakers, I thought it was good. I thought you had entertaining basketball. Guys were going at it. You were picking up full court. They were playing a physical type of game. I was very entertained by it. They had the courts and the jerseys and stuff like that. Some people didn't like it. I thought it was a nice switch up. Obviously, understanding that the league is trying to cater to that casual audience. You have the new TV rights coming up. Netflix might be interested, or some of the other streaming services. I thought this was a successful rollout, given this a first of its kind and kind of a concept that the NBA was rolling out here.
So, I mean, it could be considered a flop if you're comparing the NBA to like the NFL. Of course. I mean, you're missing a zero when it comes to number of people watching your games. So yeah, the NBA still is just a drop in the bucket compared to the media rights deals, I guess, that the NFL is able to obtain. But, they're a unicorn, they're an outlier. And the bar is very low for November and December NBA. Most mainstream sports fans, let alone NBA fans, but just sports fans, don't think the NBA starts until Christmas Day. That's a real thing.
Yeah,
I mean, we're here, we're watching every game. The Knicks have played and NBA has played 25 something games. Most people don't really know that. I've been in these trenches a long time, and I can assure you those mainstream fans don't start coming over until that Christmas Day game. It's the Daytona 500 of basketball, right? It's at the beginning of the schedule is the biggest day.
All day.
So with all that said, no, I really don't think this was a flop because first of all, the NBA cares about one thing above all, and that's making money. So right. That this worked out this way, they're going to sell this package, which is all the in-season tournament games will go to either Amazon or Netflix, or some streaming giant is going to pay them money for exclusive rights to this package because people cared and the Lakers won. So now it's a thing that people are going to be talking about for the rest of our days watching the league. So, I think it was a success also because of the quality of the basketball played, what it's going to result in long term. Of course, there's going to be little tweaks like the 2 p.m. tip off. I hated the courts.
Yeah.
I think they're terrible. They're too much. I'm a boomer.
I like the Pacer.
I like tradition.
I did like the Pacer court.
Oh, CP, come on.
It was a tribute to Buddy Hield. It was Bahamas. I like the court.
Come on. I mean, we're watching Boise State of football, like a plus color rush on NFL.
Yeah.
And on an NBA court. And the jerseys didn't even match. The jerseys didn't match. Nothing matched. It's just spray and hope something sticks.
You had some people's courts weren't ready. You had guys slipping all over the place. That definitely needs work. But I did think, though, and Al, let me know your thoughts on this. I did think that when you got to that semifinal game, the 2 p.m. tip-off, you lost that crowd edge. Like, that, to me, was part of, like, what made this thing fun, was that you had Indiana turning up. You had Sacramento fans lighting the beam, turning up in the final stage of group play. Like, that crowd atmosphere is still a bit missing. It felt like even a little bit less than a summer league game, compared to when we went and saw Wembanyama over the summer. So I thought that part was a little bit missing.
I think the thing for that, and I totally agree, especially when you have it on a Thursday at 2 p.m., like, people are still in work. Who's tuning in? Like, I'm like getting ready to just like think about doing a workout, and then I get the notification, oh, game's about to start. I'm like, well, look, like, I'm not doing my workout right now because I want to sit down and watch this game. It was just at a really odd time. Like, the Pelicans Lakers time was like the perfect time, but they're also, as Rob noted, like, that's a hub for Lakers fans. Like, you go to Summer League, CP, as we always talked about, you see Lakers fans just flocking in by the droves. And it's not too far from LA, so it makes sense. But definitely got to work on the time. There's definitely going to be tweaks to this thing. But I thought it was a major success. I like the entire aspect of it. The last day of group play where you're just like looking for, like, all right, point differential. Like, what's Boston doing? What's Miami doing? Is Miami going to beat the Bucks so that way the Knicks get better positioning? Like, I was all engaged, just trying to see what was going to happen, trying to figure out the math. That stuff was exciting. And I think the biggest thing, to add on to what Rob's saying, not only did you have the Lakers, but then you got a young and upcoming team with a upcoming superstar in Tyrese Halliburton to make it even better. And it was a good game. Like, you saw the Pacers had their run like up until the fourth quarter, trying to keep it close, but Lakers obviously were able to seal it and take home the trophy. But you got a young team, the new guard, the old guard, and LeBron James, a historic franchise in the Lakers going against this young Indiana Pacers team. And it was a success. I'm looking forward to next year and see what tweaks they make. but definitely the 2 o'clock start time in Vegas was god awful.
So real quick, Adam Silver always, before this tournament started, he was using the analogy and comparing it to what the English Premier League does with, with their FA Cups and their national cups. I was thinking more of like the UEFA, which is the Champions League group stage, the final game, all the teams in the group play at the same time because goal differential matters more times than not in advancing to the knockout stage. And that just becomes such a witching hour, if you will, of like, oh my God, they're up by 1 on the goal. That changes the entire complexion of like the rest of the group. And it was fun to watch those, point differentials matter. And I personally, I love seeing DeMar DeRozan like just tilt it off. Just what are we doing here? Like they're already eliminated. Why are you fouled? We're down by 30. And even Billy Donovan is sitting over there like doing his math in his head, down by 30. And Joe Mazzulla is like, your math is off. Like, this is just funny to me that you can get blown out and still, like, I'm sorry, like the whole unwritten rule of don't embarrass your opponent doesn't apply here. And it got people talking. Look, we've been now speaking about this for almost 15 minutes. And that's ultimately all the NBA cares about, is driving interest and conversation around it if it's genuine and constructive. So the basketball was good. It was interesting. There weren't any major flaws in even that 2 p.m. game because it was on a neutral site. Maybe that's how you fix this here. That we go back to doing them in home arenas, the semifinals, and then you play just the finals in Vegas or just the finals in Madison Square Garden, or you take it international and you go to London and Paris and you do it at these times because the NBA is an international sport. There's ways to tweak it, I think, but overall, everyone is pretty dang pleased.
Al, my 2 cents. Shout out to my 2 cents in the chat, checking in, sends a €5 super chat, says, what are your thoughts on the final game stats not counting? I think they have to fix that going forward. Salute, guys. I mean, you had AD go all 41 and 20. Says I'm him in there. He's killing Miles Turner and all those guys. What do you think about that? Final stats counting. Should it be counted?
Should be counted as like its own thing, like how you have playoff stats, right? I think you need to have the difficulty is that the in-season tournament is considered regular season games. So I think if you're going to have for the final game not included,
right? Except the final,
except for the last one, except for the last one, except for the finals. I think that should be its own category. Then you should start keeping track of like that own statistical category, or you create like even a subsection of like regular season play and then in-season tournament play, right? Like it'll still like for all those games, it will count towards the regular season, but then you create that subsection as well. Like this is how they perform during the in-season tournament. And then you can include the finals aspect to that as well. So you're keeping track of 3 stats, 2 will overlap. But I think that's a way to solve that issue. And look, the only reason they didn't include it is like the same reason for the play-in tournament, right? It's not considered playoffs. What do you consider it? And I think the play-in tournament should have its own statistical category that you keep track of over the years, just because we like to go back. We like to refer to things. I think that's a way to solve that issue.
So, by the way, stats with players, sometimes 83 games get played by a player because they were traded to a team that has an additional game on their schedule than the team that they got traded from. I think who did it last? Someone just did it last year. I think I
think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, someone played 83 games last year.
Yeah, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, it might have been Mikal Bridges because he had
Mikal Bridges. Yeah.
So this isn't even like a thing that hasn't happened in the past. You just add it to the regular season stats. That Anthony Davis game just disappears into the abyss. That's not right. That's not fair to him.
No, you got to count that for AD. You don't know if he's making it to Wednesday, man. Knock on wood. That was a signature game, man. So they got to figure out a way to count it for the game. I had a hard time going against Halliburton. I just thought momentum was on his side.
But listen to me, CP.
Yeah, but give credit. I give you credit, and we talked about this on Friday's show, Al. I did think that the Lakers defensively would pose the best opposition to Halliburton, and they made him look like a mere mortal, right? When the Bucks and the Celtics had him looking like a god, Lakers were able to hold him to 20-11, 3 turnovers. He did turn the ball over, so they made him little bit human, but I just thought the combination of the wings that they could throw at him, from Cam to Prince, Vanderbilt, on top of their pick and roll coverages with AD kind of leading the charge and them showing him different looks. I thought they did a great job of really just slowing him down. And then on the other end, I mean, boy, oh boy, you heard LeBron James mic'd up talking to Coach and AD about how to take Miles Turner. 86 points in the paint for the Lakers in this game. Unheard of. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it then.
And it's because, like, you got LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, you got two guys who could be their own wrecking crew and just attack the middle of the paint, whether it's LeBron driving, AD doing whatever he does, whether it's just posting up, back to the basket. I mean, he's just so talented. It was just difficult for Miles Turner alone. I mean, think about it. You have Aaron Naismith out there that you're asking to be your power forward. Then you got Obi Toppin, not necessarily a great defender, as much as I love Obi. But the front court for the Lakers alone can just demolish what the Pacers have going on. It had to be a track meet, and the Lakers are also capable of keeping up as well.
Yeah, I mean, they forced someone other than Tyrese Halliburton to beat them, was their number one initiative and goal going into this game, and they succeeded in that. They turned it into a half-court rock fight like we see in the playoffs. No more of this, you're going to run us out of the gym and you've got the number one net rating offense of all time. You're going to have to do that in the half court. When Anthony Davis locks in like that, no more of those bunnies at the rim. Vanderbilt's on the court, I believe, as well. That's just added elements of defense. Is what got the Lakers to the conference finals last year. I mean, that was a team that was barely like in the play-in tournament at the trade deadline. And then just magically overnight, they became this basketball Godzilla in a lot of ways. And when they decided to show it, you knew LeBron was going to give it the 2007, like he was running with Jamario Moon type effort because of all those things we discussed at the top of the show. That's a special kind of the effort. All right. You need, if you have Jamario Moon and Sasha Pavlovich and Ira Newble as your running mates, sometimes you got to score 25 straight points in an Eastern Conference Finals game against the Pistons. So I know for those of you that are going to audit me on that, I know that Jamario Moon was the year after.
Yeah.
When LeBron turns up like that, it's contagious. Then you get the version of Anthony Davis that we saw in games 1, 3, 5, and 7 during the playoffs last year when he did every other where he's the greatest player on earth. Well, guess what? That one showed up again, and he's certainly capable of it. And Laker fans get frustrated, especially here in Los Angeles, because like, why can't we get this out of this guy every time? It's clearly possible, and you're always chasing your own tail because you're never going to get there. But the Lakers, when they lock in like that, there's a reason why they're in the conference finals.
Dominated the glass as well. I think they won on the rebounds by more than 20. So they were really able to control that pace, control the glass, and have their way with the Pacers. They get it despite the phantom timeout call that they gave them during the Phoenix Suns game, which the fix was totally in and obvious. But we won't go there.
Don't forget the group play, CP. Don't forget the group play.
Yes, exactly. What did he?
That call, by the way. Okay, so. I don't want to defend the referees because he ended up getting the call wrong, but he's on the other side of the court. Devin Booker fell over and the ball didn't pop out in front of him until the ball was loose because we saw it on television. The angle, we're looking right at it, but he couldn't see through the dude's body. So like LeBron's calling the timeout, he blew the whistle and then he has to give the timeout. So it ended up being the wrong call, but I don't know how he would have ever known that the ball was loose until it was well away from Devin Booker. So it's easy for us to sit here and yell, but not a single person on the show or watching this would have been able to make that correct call there because you can't see where the ball is, man. I don't know what else this is going to happen in basketball. So
I got to wonder if they look at that and consider reviewing plays like that, like an automatic review in late game situations. We'll have to wait and see. But both teams represented, I think, an interesting dynamic in that you saw the Pacers, who were an upstart team coming into this year, really show you some signs of life. Yes, the number one offense in the league, and can that sustain in the playoffs? And Halliburton's brilliance, I mean, damn near MVP magic. And then on the Lakers side, you have formidable teams in the West. You have, you have the Thunder being an upstart. You have the Nuggets to tangle with, Minnesota certainly, but Lakers also are interesting because LeBron and AD are playing at that high level when healthy. They have a bevy of wings. They have a nice core there. Well, how about trades? Like you have Levine in the top in their sights. You have Siakam on the other side, maybe for the Pacers. Al, I'll start with you, man. What do you think about both of those teams? Like, do you think trades could be in their future to try to maintain their edge, man, in their respective conferences.
I think you do need to make a trade if you're the Lakers just for scoring purposes. Like if Anthony Davis gets hurt, or if you're trying to reduce LeBron James's minutes so that way you can have him towards the end of the season, having another scorer like Zach LaVine, who we saw drop 50 at the beginning of the season, that would totally help take the added pressure off LeBron James and Anthony Davis just to be available to play 30 plus minutes on a nightly basis to keep this team afloat. And you saw, like, yes, this is an in-season tournament. You see how great these guys can be when, you know, the money's on the line, but you're going to need somebody else, in my opinion. Like, it's cool to have Cam out there. Great story. It's cool that you got like all of these other young guards. I mean, you have Rui off the bench that I like. You got Austin Reeves too off the bench, who could be impactful. But you need somebody else in that starting rotation outside of D'Lo, in my opinion, who's still inconsistent on some nights. Like one night he could drop you 20, another night it's just a quiet 10. You know, you're gonna need somebody who you can consistently rely on offensively, and I think Zach LaVine fits that bill. I mean, you go get DeMar DeRozan too, the mid-range assassin. But I think if you're LeBron, you want somebody who is also a legitimate knockdown three-point shooter, and that is Zach LaVine.
So 2 things on this. First of all, if they go and get DeMar DeRozan, I know the guy's from LA. I know he's a dynamic scorer. Did we not learn our lesson with Russell Westbrook? What happens to this offense when you have a mid-range guy that is a whirlpool of just usage? Like, you dump that guy the ball and you get out of the way. That's not how the Lakers succeed. They succeed with pick and rolls with LeBron James and Anthony Davis with the game on the line, surrounding them with three-point shooters in the corner and putting downhill pressure on the rim. DeMar DeRozan just cancels all of that out because of spacing, not because he's a bad player. I just don't know if it's the right fit. And then number 2 is, what on earth are we trading to get these guys? The Bulls aren't just going to give them away for free, considering the market is going to be quite steep for demand when it comes. Everyone knows they're available. As many games as the Chicago Bulls win, they're on a little win streak here. That doesn't matter. Like, they're still going to carry a price tag and they may end up getting it. So if let's say it's LaVine, who are you trading? Now, Austin Reeves? You can't, if you traded Austin Reeves,
he's playing way too
If you traded Austin Reeves after what happened with Caruso, there would be actual protests, not the fake protests at the crypto.com.
the real get new ownership.
The real ones.
The real one.
No, you cannot trade Austin Reeves. And if you can't trade Austin Reeves, what on earth are you trading besides D'Angelo Russell to match contracts? Cam Reddish doesn't have that value yet. I know he's given him some good minutes, but that's not enough to just take Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls. So all of these mistakes that the Lakers have made in free agency and trades throughout the years is a two-headed sword, because 1, it's put them in this position of being conference finals contenders, but 2, they've made their bed in terms of transactions and they kind of have to sleep in it at this point.
Yeah, when you sell your soul to the devil, hey, they got the chip, but it's always hard to maintain that window.
The Mickey Mouse chip.
Right. Right. And what everybody wants is to put the asterisk on, I guess. But I think for the Lakers, they're just in a tricky spot, man, because you can marvel at the brilliance of LeBron James. And when AD is, durable, they look great. But I just feel like it's an over-reliance on those guys, especially given AD's injury history, LeBron's age, and his durability. He has had some knick-knack injuries as of late. I think they do need another guy. Austin Reeves is great off the bench. I think he's been playing very well and starting to get into his groove for sure. But I still think they may need to look for another piece. And then for the Pacers, well, it's been said that obviously, the wing is where they need the assistance. A lot of the reports are saying that they're going to be after a wing presence. They've got, over $9 million in salary cap that they can absorb, bevy of draft picks, according to Bobby Marks. I think Siakam could be a target for them, man. I think that could be a realistic target for him. Lame duck season with the Raptors. Hard to predict which way Ujiri moves, but for the Pacers, I'm going to be interested to see how aggressive they will be this season, given what might look like a revelation just on where they are in the East and how Halliburton looks so far, man. Looks great.